Hello, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm sure in some places it's also good night. Please give me a thumbs up in the chat there if you are receiving me okay. Before we get started, very important session today. I'm really excited to get into the AI aspects of the human behavior and what we're doing in some of those areas. So I want to be able to share a lot of that with you. It is an exciting journey. So please give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know where you're at, where you're coming from, what country, location, and just say hi. Excellent. All right, so today is all about, oops, yeah, it might help if I start in the right place. See, technology. We rely on it so much, we use it all the time. It's part and parcel of who we are. Today we talk about the use of AI in hiring and some of the challenges we've seen, and I've been involved in this area for more than a decade. So it's been quite a journey to see a lot of these things evolving and what's happening and the pitfalls, the issues, and we'll share a lot of the stories of what's going on and a solution. So I hope you can stay with me. There is a lot of information, but I won't dive in too deeply because this can become a fairly complex topic. If we start diving into the whole AI side of things and how you train it and all of that, that's maybe a topic for the technologists that are really interested in that. But today, really the key is I want to talk about these two elements, okay? Yeah, in the past, I've talked a lot about business and behavior, and really the reason the two are so important and they must come together. You hear lots of the great leaders around the world, they tell you to hire for attitude because you can train skills. Well, how do you do that with an AI? Okay. So we need to talk about that. We need to talk about the hiring process because now we really are diving into all the challenges that despite that philosophy of hiring for attitude and training for skill, despite that philosophy, how do you do that effectively? And we've struggled with that for as long as I've been in the workplace. And long before that, we've been doing this probably for thousands of years and trying to figure that out. And now we're introducing AI. So how does AI, what's the role that AI is going to play in this? So when someone is hired to do a task, we're really hiring the right attitude, the right capability. We can test for skills. But how does the AI help us to do that? What's the role of the AI at the moment? Is it really replacing people, or is it supporting us to do a better job? So I prefer to think of technology and how it assists us in doing some of the mundane tasks, as long as it does it accurately. And this is where the difference between just pure automation of a system, a process, versus now bringing in artificial intelligence. Okay, it's an interesting journey. So the agenda today, we're going to dive into some of the pitfalls. We're going to talk about the emotional intelligence, behavior intelligence, I'll dive into what we do that's different and unique, that's really the emerging way of using all of these technologies together. And we will talk about some of the tools that are available in that space. Okay, so the problem that we've had that we're trying to fix with AI is really these issues on the left. So in order to get any level of consistency, all your recruiters need to be using some of the same methodologies, the same tools. They need to be trained the same way. They need to interview the same way, collect the data the same way. And how realistic is that? Every recruiter is unique in their style. They like to think that they excel because of their style, their uniqueness, their intuition, etc. So the ability to really get consistency and quality is being very difficult. And again, this has been a problem for thousands of years. It's not something new. When an interviewer recruits somebody based on their own filters, their biases, maybe the guidelines, if they've done a great job of consulting with the management and asking the right questions, they have maybe the psychology, the neurology figured out on what they're really looking for. We're really now getting into a very specific niche that only a few, sorry to say that, a few recruiters do really well, right? And add to that all of the outdated assessment tools that we've been using for decades, since the 1950s, DISC, Myers-Briggs, Hogan, a lot of these tools based around the same information, and we're transferring that same old technology into AI because that's the big data that we have. We don't have big data for neuroscience. So it's been so much easier to really shift what we've been doing in the past into AI. And now we have some of the same challenges showing up in AI, and I'll talk about those in a moment. So what we are effectively able to do, the biggest thing that AI brings to the table is it removes our filters and biases. It's just a robot that's going to ask questions and analyze the answers, or in most cases, companies are just doing, the first step with AI, which is the screening process. And so that's where the first problem arises. Okay. So the current challenges with AI is the over-reliance on resumes and LinkedIn profiles. These are the two main things that we see used around the world with all the major organizations and all the recruiters. The emerging AI is predominantly doing the search for you. And because of tools like LinkedIn and the recruitment tools that are out there, there's just so many applicants to sift through. So the AI is being used to do that. But the problem is, how many people today are actually writing their own resume, writing their own profile? They're usually hiring a consultant, or they're using ChatGPT or a tool like that to help them write their profile, right? So the language that's in there, the information that's in there, unless it's properly screened by the person, you can't really tell sentiments from that information. Yes, you can tell their skills, their experience, and that's fine for that level of screening. But if you're looking for attitude, you want to read the language that that person created. You want to get inside their head. You want to look at how they think, how they act, how they respond, right? And because everybody is using all of these tools and consultants, you can't extract that information from them. So we're limited to just experience. And that's not too bad. So that at least gives you a narrowed down pool that you can then work with and identify and go to the next level, which then we're back to doing the face-to-face interviews. So we have the same biases, the same filters, and AI is starting to move into that space as well. So the ability for us to then use that information effectively is shifting into this new space. Now, I mentioned, okay, we've got neuroscience now. We don't have, the data that we have from DISC, Myers-Briggs, all of those tools that have millions, big data, millions of history, records, etc. The AI will learn from that information. When we did our work with the universities, we worked with the University of Calgary, we worked with the York University, and the AI teams in both cases, the challenge was we still needed to do the work by hand first, so we could load the data into the AI and train the AI, right? Now, that requires, my estimates was 270,000 hours of effort to do that. That's a lot of work. We're looking at 2.5 million records in order to achieve the level of intelligence that I'm looking for, because we look at 49 different behavior traits as how these apply to the role, to the management style, the engagement with teams, that whole holistic view of the behavior and attitude is very critical in that next level of understanding how someone is going to perform and being able to predict how they're going to act in your workplace, because your workplace is unique. So let's look at some of the big players. You can read what's on the screen there. Amazon's been doing this for a long time, and we tested a lot of these tools that I'm going to show you when we were doing the research with the universities and the analytics that came out of that. So it analyzes the resumes and really is looking for keywords related to experience, qualifications, etc. So it's only matching at that first level. Okay. Moving on to Microsoft, doing a very similar thing. They use LinkedIn Recruiter predominantly. And again, the algorithm recommends candidates that match job criteria. So they're using AI to, again, sift through that information. At this stage, it's not really intelligent. It's really mostly searching and sifting through information and doing matching so that it can provide the information that aligns with that. Google as well. Okay. Also doing similar things, and they go a little bit further with some of the skills and experience. IBM was really my favorite one that we started working with at the start. IBM Watson has come a long way, and the reason being is it is doing more interactive work with the candidates. Okay, and this is the transition, but the issue that I have, and I'll explain that in a moment, we're still using the big 5 categories from psychology. We really don't have the data that we were looking for to be able to go to that next level. Okay, so I don't know if I skipped any, but there we go. So the problems, right? and they've faced the same issues, so they haven't been able to get to that same level. And the research that we have found is they have stopped, in some cases, totally relying on that. It's still going through the recruitment department to be able to do the interviews, the sifting down to really, identifying discrepancies, I think, is a key element in recruiting. Working through the questionnaires that people ask, how they answer them, the facial expressions, all of these things are really important in that process. And we're seeing more and more development in that area. I think it was just last week, or a few weeks back, I was demoing a telephony system that could take the calls and ask questions and interact with people. And we've developed that into a telephony system to do interviews. So the AI, using our training, our methodology, can then identify traits and match traits with people. Okay. So again, the challenge with the AI is it's just looking at the resumes, and looking at the resumes is not really enough, because I think if you've been around, you've done lots of these things, you know that there's stuff on people's resumes that really shouldn't be there. The claims, the jobs people apply to, they rework their resumes, put different things in there. I don't want to put too much of a blemish on that process, but there are people that do that. So we had to constantly develop ways to eliminate those candidates fairly quickly, to identify those. And facial expressions became a really powerful tool, so that when you asked a question and you watched someone's body language, their facial expressions, etc., you could guess intuitively, and I call it a guess because some people are not good at it, some people are great at it, some people think they're great at it, but they're actually lousy at it. So that whole process is missing, okay? Or let's just say it has been missing. And just a little bit of background, I was involved in pioneering the very first facial recognition, facial recognition software and tools that are being used today. So imagine taking that facial recognition software that is identifying people and now putting it into a level of interpretation to now also read body language, facial expressions in the context of whether someone is making up a story or they're actually extracting information from memory. All of that information is now able to be put into the AI. But there's still a big element that we discovered that was missing, that we were doing in person, that we now can do with AI, and that is asking a question that's been tested thousands of times that elicits a specific neurological process, okay? And the simple language of that is you ask a specific question that causes someone to think about it in a very specific way. So if you're looking for the team dynamics, how they work with a team, there are some specific questions that we've tested and proven that elicit the right kind of thinking when they answer those questions. Okay, so that's been the part that's missing. Again, the tools that are out there are using a lot of old proven systems, but they are restricted typically to within the big five, and there is breakdown within those big five categories. If you're interested in that, do reach out, and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction so you can actually discover more about that. In fact, you can just do a search on the big five in psychology and you'll find information on that. All right, so moving on to now the problems with the tools today is causing the screening process diminishes to a level where the candidate pool that you're getting maybe skills fit, but is that really what you're looking for? If we go back to the beginning, we're saying we can teach skills, but we're looking for attitude. So why are we screening using tools that screen for skills and experience matching when we're actually looking for attitude fit, right? And the problems that evolve from that is high turnover. You still don't have the right culture, the right person, the right attitude on your team. You can't train those things. You can teach a lot of things, but this is almost, it's not innate because we're not born that way, but learned through the first 10 years of our lives, 7 years of our lives, if you follow that theory. So hiring costs becomes expensive. We've talked about how much it costs to replace somebody. It's very expensive. The culture gets diluted. The management frustration, damage to company reputation with clients, the innovation stagnation. You're not getting the right mix of people to take you to the next level. There is obviously a long list. I just picked 10 that were maybe important ones. The bottom line is it's very expensive when you can't get the right people to the interview and then interview them to get them into the right role. The right role is matching the right person, the right attitude to the task, the management style, and the culture. It's a holistic understanding, a holistic view that needs to take place. Okay, so company culture is important, right? And it's important because the dynamics of how an organization functions depends a lot on the trust, the relationship, the attitude, the level of ownership, blame, excuses, all of these cultural elements. Culture is really a behavior, right? If you look up the word culture in any dictionary, the description is a consistent, observable behavior that is consistent in a group, okay? And so it's the behavior that's key. That's why, I specialize in behavior intelligence, the behavior science, because we can't read people's minds. We can only interact with people through their behavior, their attitude. And yes, often their behavior is a reflection of their values, their beliefs, but behavior is also learned, okay? And so we need to be able to differentiate between those that are ingrained values that will dictate how somebody acts and behaves versus the way they've learned to express that. So the two are really important to take into consideration. As far as I know, AccuMatch is the only tool that really allows us to look at that. It allows us to create a benchmark of the culture of a team or an organization. It allows us to also plan a shift in culture. Okay, it's one of the only tools that I can look at the management styles very quickly and compare that to individuals, where you can map two people together and you can see the relationship that's going to take place before it takes place. This is the predictive side of things. You can, through the map, we get so much clarity about the specific mindset and behaviors that are going to show up when somebody joins the team. Okay, so matching candidates is really important. Let's just maybe move that to the side a little bit. So you can see that, matching candidates, not just to the culture, to the organization, but the management style. This is really all very important, and it's critical to put it all together. So behavior intelligence is still something that most companies are coming to grips with. They're trying to, there is leadership intelligence, there is team dynamics, there's many different intelligences that have been documented over the years that we're now able to leverage technology to assess those tools and assess those behaviors and patterns and look for the cognitive fit as well as the task fit, because we can teach that. That predictive power, it's the difference between a flat culture versus an energized culture that's exciting to be a part of. Okay. The benchmarks that we've developed through the decade and a half of work that we've done, the assessments, the tools that we have, the evidence-based research and science that's gone into this, the behavior intelligence approach is to start with the culture, the benchmark. Okay, so before we do any recruiting, the first thing we want to do is map out the expected culture versus mapping out the management styles, and also looking at a database of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of data to see historically what we have that aligns with that, so that we can ask the questions about, is this what we're looking for, or is it something unique that we are developing that is going to be different from what we have historically in our system? So the interview process then shifts, because the training that we do with the recruiters and the managers is to understand their own biases and their own filters that are going to show up during the interview, okay? And be able to identify what we're looking for that might be different. So a good example is, I might be interviewing somebody and I connect with them really easily and I'm excited and I think they're great. That might be a problem, because they are actually too much like me, and I might be looking for someone that is different. And so the ideal candidate comes into the office to the interview, and I don't get along with that person, it annoys me, because they are the perfect fit for the role that I'm looking to fill. But because I don't get that feeling, that connection, I dismiss them, okay? And we've had lots of scenarios like that, where we've hired the ideal candidate and put them in a company and tried to work with the leadership, but they've gone don't worry, we know what we're doing, we're fine, and the candidate leaves in 3 months, right? So the person was great for the role, but the management style didn't recognize and know how to deal with that. So there are two sides to how you hire people, okay? And today we are leveraging advanced tools to do the AI of the pieces that were missing. So, I talked earlier about my background working with the innovation in facial recognition and so forth. Now we're using video to interview, and the AI is trained to ask the questions, pull in the information, transcribe that information, look for the matching of facial expressions with the words that are being said. There was just so much that's going on in the AI. I won't bore you with all that detail, but it's allowing us now to be able to add this new element to this. But there's a little bit more to it if you want to do a proper holistic. Well, holistic is a big word, so what does it really mean? It means you are dotting the I's and crossing the T's on multiple things within the process, okay? So we're not even talking about skills here, because skills, we know how to test for skills, we know how to interview for skills, and you should have those tools and systems in place when you are doing that. What we're talking about is an attitude, cultural, management fit, okay? So matching the answers to the traits is important. So we are actually, I mentioned earlier, we have specific questions that have been proven to elicit certain behavior thinking styles. Okay, there's 49 traits that we look at that are specific to the workplace. And we are now also using the AccuMatch assessment to get three, if you think about facial expressions, but we're getting, in essence, two measurements that we want to compare and overlay those two scorecards to look for discrepancies. And we're looking for discrepancies between the question and answer that's done live versus the multiple choice questions, because we want to identify possible areas that could bite us in the backside later on, okay? So the interview then is about the discrepancies rather than the selection process. The AI has done the matching. It's highlighted the areas that are an attitude fit, the areas that are questionable, and we want to then finalize the process by doing that cross-check and validation in that last step of the interview. And I believe we're the only ones that also can create multiple benchmarks and compare the benchmarks and overlay them and ask questions. It's a very consultative process, and it's really becoming the norm that we will see evolve over the next decade. So the shortfalls that I mentioned earlier with the existing implementations that the major players are all doing, and they're spending billions of dollars into this area, okay? And we want to be able to support that with the thousands and thousands of hours that we have put in the research to create this opportunity that can then be taken to yet another level, okay? So this isn't ending here. Bit of the history, we've been around doing this since 2007, probably well before that. I've run lots of businesses. I've been in the corporate world. I've recruited hundreds and hundreds of people, and we ran a business staffing company when we were running the coaching firm, and we did lots of recruiting. And that's where AccuMatch really started to evolve. And first, we had AccuMatch, I think in 2011, 2013, we realized the importance of language of influence. So we implemented the behavior intelligence in the communication level. Okay, so the spoken conversation, the language of influence, which then allowed us to evolve into the launch of culturography, academics. You can see we've done a lot of things. We've tested in a lot of different ways and a lot of different tools before even launching back in, I guess it was 2015, that it was launched as a viable, complete, tested, proven product. And today it's backed by huge testimonials. We're in multiple languages around the globe. We have case studies, stories. There's lots on the website. If you want to access some of those, do reach out to me and I'll share those with you. And they extend from, small business in a partnership environment, or an individual startup business hiring somebody. A perfect example of that was someone that we hired for a role. We were doing the recruiting, and the manager grabbed at someone that they really liked, despite the fact that we said it's not going to be a good match for the expectation, the culture, the role, the attitude that's required for that specific role, because the task requires specific mindsets, for specific programming that an accountant has to think in a different way than a salesperson, right? So having said that, did it work out? No, it again failed within 6 months, and we had to go back and revisit that. In a corporate setting, we're seeing large organizations doing benchmarks between different departments that are doing the same thing, same products, same service, same function. And one is succeeding and the other one is not. And we need to identify what's different about the culture so that we can retrain or rehire, because a lot of what you can do within this as well is retrain, realign, because we are constantly evolving. We are not fixed. Okay. So when we identify that someone has the right traits to be able to do a job, but they're in the wrong job, it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, we can predict that this is going to be a better fit if they are moved here. So hiring is also internal in a lot of organizations, not just externally sourced. All right. So the summary, just to wrap up here a little bit, because there's a lot of information that I've covered today, and it will be posted so that you'll be able to access this. And the important thing is the proven track record, the internationalization that we've done to also look at cultural differences in different countries, the work in delivering a tool that removes our biases, our filters, but looks at ways to elicit those neurological programs that we've developed throughout our career, our childhood, etc. So be able to predict behavior. And then finally, the matching of the culture, the management, and the role itself, what's required in the attitude, the thinking, the behavior for that. Okay. So those are important things to keep in mind. And if you want to dive into that, do reach out to me. I'll put that on the screen. It's this one. Okay, so if you want to contact me, that's my details, and there it is there. If you want access to those reports that I mentioned, do reach out. And I think that's it. So we'll see if there's any questions. Do text us in the chat box there, and I'll watch for those. Even though the session ends, I'll be online and hopefully looking at any questions and responding to you. But again, do reach out. You can reach me at nagi@biqorg.com. And you can also visit our AccuMatch BI website. That's AccuMatch with a double C, BI, Behavior Intelligence.com. Okay. Thanks. I look forward to seeing you next week, where we take a look at some more behavior intelligence tools as they apply to the workplace, leadership, team dynamics, and decision making, etc. So, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week. And again, good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon.